Good evening, friends. In today's section, I wish to describe from Aphorism 11 to Aphorism 16, which is a continuation of vital force. In Aphorism 11, we see ill or disease is due to the fall of self-acting vital force. We know the vital force present in all part of the human body, and vital force is in every section. Without the vital force, there is no cell can activate, because the activating force which inside the cell, inside the nucleus, inside the chromatin, inside the DNA, inside each and every atom, inside each and every molecule is which causes the existence of life is known as vital force, as we described in the previous section. And in the 11th aphorism, we can say that whatever causes the derangement of this self-acting, self-animating, self-existing vital force or the life force of an organism is called as disease, or which furnish or which disturbs the self-acting or which disturbs the living force is known as disease. And this derangement is caused by unhealthy or mischievous, which is or bad, that is known as morbid factors, bad factors or bad energies which present in the entire world. We know every time the human being, we know the existence of the fittest, survival of the fittest. The same theory takes place in all organism and in case of the vital force also. In every time in our body, the vital force and the disease force is fighting with each other. In Aphorism 16, we get the total detail that this morbid factor, this unhealthy or this uneven factor which is causing the disease is similar to that of the vital force. We know vital force is an energy and it is self-existing. It is a force. So the thing which can cause derangement to a force is another force. Nothing else can cause any derangement. So the vital force is a force. So the disease is also a force. And in the footnote of Aphorism 11, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann gives a very good example which shows us how disease occurs and how homeopathic remedy act on it. We know when we take a magnet and rub it with a needle, the total property of the magnet is not transferred to the needle, but it magnetizes the needle. In a similar way, as the magnet, we consider the magnet as the morbid, unhealthy, or mischievous energy which can causes or which can stimulate the self-acting vital force. When this battle between the vital force and this disease force takes place, there comes a friction, and when the disease force survives over the vital force, then the vital force exhibits some of the properties, some of the powers of the disease force which we can recognize as the symptoms. And when we give a similar kind of energy which can remove the disease force or which can activate, which can accelerate, which can catalyze the power of vital force against the disease force, then that force is known as drug force or remedy force. In aphorism number 12, when we go to the aphorism number 12, a person, the morbid factor is only the root. He says that the morbid factor is only the root of disease. He furthermore stressed that this factor, in the absence of a morbid factor, in the absence of a disease force, there will not be a disease. This dynamic change in the internal, this dynamic change in the internal level or internal plane, when the vital force and the disease process for battling, we will not get any symptoms. When the vital force fails, or when the vital force is suppressed, and when the disease force takes up on, it will show its own action. We cannot change the property, we cannot change the action of a person. The similar thing happened when the disease was survives. It shows its own action, which exhibits to the periphery, which exhibits to the mortal plane, or which exhibits to the three planes of life as symptom. First mental symptoms, then the physical symptoms, and soon if we let the disease force to exist there, it will totally pull out the vital force from the body. Absence of vital force causes death. In the Aphorism 13, Samuel Hahnemann say, why allopathy fails? What is the problem of allopathy? Even though he is an allopath, he say, what's the problem of allopathy? We know the absence or under the pressure, when a substance is under the pressure for a long time, it will get adapted to that pressure. In a similar way, allopathy is also under a pressure, which is a foolish observation, or which is a foolish theory that disease is a mortal thing, disease is a existing thing, or disease is a mortal or a separate thing from living being. Or when we talk about that, what is living being? Living being is nothing but when a thing present with energy, that vital force. So disease force is similar to vital force, but it has some negative energies, or it is contrary to each other. And in this in allopathy, they says that disease is something different from the living body, something external to the living body, something apart from the life, which when it enter into the living body, it produces the disease. And they are trying to remove this thing, which is materialistic thing, from the body, which only causes the palliation or suppression. Sometimes by miraculous cures are also possible. They imagine as disease is a thing which is innermost in the plane and which has a ununderstandable or undistinguishable character. Hahnemann says this is the most foolish thing which causes allopathy fails. Hahnemann includes that due to the chronic administration of this foolish theory upon the allopath, which makes the allopathy as a mischievous, non-healing, dangerous, morbidic treatment or morbidic act. It was a good act, but when this theory come on the head of all allopaths, which causes the all changes, which causes the all failure of allopathy, and which causes the origin or genesis of homeopathy. In this next aphorism number 14, Hahnemann says that there is nothing but interior of man which is curable, or there is nothing morbid symptoms inside the man which is curable. We can say that we cannot see, that is, he says like this: the morbid energy or the morbid force is unrecognizable. It is unobservable or unrecognizable, as we cannot, till now we are not able to recognize our spirit or recognize our vital force. As the similar pattern, we are unable to observe the morbid force or the disease force which causes disease. And Hahnemann says that we can observe it, we can find it as morbid signs and symptoms by analyzing this morbid sign and symptoms in the light of God or in the light of truth, truly observation. We can find out how we can make the disease to the ease, how we can make the unhealthy to the healthy, how we can make the suffering to the satisfaction. And in this part we see it is more philosophical or more spiritual, that he says that according to the Bible part or the textbook of proverb in Holy Bible, we see that the physician is important to the life of every human being because they are blessed with the power of the God to treat you. Or in that section they say that the physician is prayed to the Lord for the power from him to cure the disease. And even says the same exactly what in the proverb, or exactly what Solomon the king dictated in the proverb. He says that without the power of the Almighty, the eternal goodness, or the wise preserver of the human life is nothing but the God. Only in his light, only in his light of truth, only in his light of wisdom we can see what is the disease and what is the disease symptoms, and only by his light we can see what is exactly causing the disease, what exactly the root cause of disease, and then only we can cure them, or then only we can treat them in an exact or perfect way. In the coming aphorism of 15, he says that a practical method. Everyone is not blessed. Everyone cannot understand this, or everyone will not get the grace from the God, even by their spiritual deficiency or even by their practical deficiency, whatever be, they all will not get this grace. Then how all homeopath can practice? For this, Samuel Hahnemann give us a new method, a practical method, that analyze the symptoms. Whatever the things, the unhealthy derangement of the vital force and the totality of the understanding symptoms altogether, take the physician to exact malady. Exact malady is nothing but the exact disease or exact suffering of the subject. Then Samuel Hahnemann described that we can't see what is vital force. So we can do by taking the totality of the symptoms, or by understanding, we can collecting the all understandable symptoms in a total way, we can see, or we can come to the point of exact remedy or exact disease by analyzing the exact disease or exact cause of disease, exact root disease. Disease is nothing but what causes changes to the vital force. So exact disease, exact malady, then we can treat it in exact perfectly way, which is defined in the next aphorism, coming aphorisms. So he says that, and in the next part, in the 15, we can see divided into two parts. In the first part, we see how the totality of symptoms helps us, and in the next part, we can see that what is the dynamic energy. We know why till now we consider, or the mind or our thought says that vital force is something different from body, but it is not truth. In the absence of body, there is no existence of vital force, and in the absence of vital force, there is no existence of body. Both are correlated, or both are mutually related. Without one, there is no existence of another. If there is no atom, there is no atomic force. If there is no atomic force, there is no atom. If there is no atomic force, or there is no EM electromagnetic force which is acting between the neutron, proton and electron, there will not be a structure known as atom. And if there is no valency force or electrostatic force which is situating between two atoms, they will not produce an element. If there is no elemental force or compounding force, they will not produce a compound. If there is no compounding or uniting force, they will not produce a molecule, which will not result in the production of a life-acting or self-acting self. Even we can consider by using the chemical everything, we know almost all chemical constitution of a single cell, a life cell. By using our chemical elements and everything, whether we can construct a life cell? No. Why? because we can't construct the exact force or the exact rhythm which produce the exact form of that cell and exact existing function of that cell. That can only be done by the God, the extraterrestrial, the Almighty. In the 16th aphorism, we see the similar thing that we have described in the footnote of 11th aphorism, that we know for stitching a cloth we need a needle. For cutting an apple we need a knife. For making an injury, if there is an injury by a knife or a prick, then we have to stitch it with a needle. So there is a rule in the Babylonian, I think, Hammurabi's law of code. In the Hammurabi's law of code and in the Bible also they said that for the eye there is we should take the eye. For the tooth we should take the tooth. For the life we should take the life. For the tongue we should take the tongue. Such a law code is in there. That's in the Babylonian Hammurabi's law code. We can see we have seen it in the civilizations and the history. We've seen such things very perfectly and beautifully. The same thing Hanuman says that if vital force is a force, how a bacteria, how another thing, how an external thing can make it change? If that thing is similar, or if the thing is in the same spiritual method, if this thing is in the same force, the same dynamic range, then only it can cause change to the vital force. So disease is nothing but a dynamic derangement, which is a dynamic force, which is a power force, which is an energy force, which can cause derangement or disturbance to the natural self-acting or natural flow of the vital force. So disease is a force and vital force or life is a force. When this life force and disease force collides, if the disease force push the life force downwards, it is exhibited to the outwards as understandable by the physician symptoms. By collecting this all totality of symptoms, a physician can understand what is the exact disease present in the person or subject who come to him and how to treat him. But when the disease force is too strong and is untreated, the vital force will be removed out. When there is a one force, the other force should be removed. The one force is powerful force, the other force is removing. Existence of the strongest, survival of the fittest. So the vital force will remove that, which is ultimately result in death. That's why due to the disease, when there is no treatment, the perfect treatment is happening, the person is going to die. When the vital force is removed from the mortal body, it is death. We know it's cadaver. Now when we come to the disease force and vital force. So disease is a force and life is a force. Then the remedy which should catalyze, which is catalyzing, which is making the old cure, is so should be in dynamic force, isn't it? It is truth. The remedy should be also in this dynamic state, in this energy state, in this same spiritual state, which can catalyze, which can boost the power of the vital force to push out the disease force at once. If this, in this manner, the remedy or the prescription takes place, then the disease is exactly removed out or exactly cured, which is absent in allopathic stream. Because of they are considering disease as a non-living thing, disease as something external to the life, disease as something external, this is something new to life. But that is not. Disease is also similar to life. Disease is also similar to the force of life. nothing new. It's from the beginning itself, the good and bad is there. In Bible we see that when the light get birth, at the same time darkness get birth. When the light get birth, at the same time death also get birth. That's why in the sayings we see, if a person get origin, if a person get life or take birth, he confirm die. That's why human is known as, in Malayalam or in other language we don't call him as Martyan or Manavan. Though a person who have death is known as Martyan. And it's one of the synonym for human in Hindi and also in Malayalam. So we see, we need a drug or a remedy which is similar in the force formula. From here we can get it. The dynamized or the potentized remedy in homeopathy are in the same status. In the footnote of 11th aphorism, Hanuman says that drug has several properties, toxical properties, therapeutical properties, and other properties are there. When it is introduced into the proper way, it can only show its property which is needed there. We know when we took a magnet and rubbed with a steel, the steel only absorbs the magnetic property, not the ductility, not the turbidity, not the lustrous. No such things is changed. In the similar way, when a crude drug is potentized, the needle is the crude drug, is potentized by is dynamized by the magnet or dynamized by the force. The previously proven principle of homeopathy, then it only exhibits its nature. What nature? This therapeutic, and this therapeutic agent will cure the disease. How to select this therapeutic agent? Samuel Hahnemann describes it in the aphorism number 15 as, there is nothing. We cannot see what is the morbid force. We cannot understand what is the morbid force. We can understand the morbid force or the morbid symptoms by the morbid signs and symptoms in the light of the truth, in the light of the wisdom, in the light of the glory or in the grace of the God, the actual wise preserver of the human life, only as he described in the aphorism number 14. And in 15 he gives us a method. When we ask this morbid, this unhealthy, this mischievous thing causes problem to the vital force, it will exhibit as a symptom, and all symptoms are understandable. Collect the all understandable symptoms, and with these symptoms, with a perfect, accurately and unprejudiced mind, with the total knowledge of disease, total knowledge of drug, total knowledge of all the knowledge that's needed for a physician, he can come to the point that which malady, which disease causes that problem, and at the time he can cure it with the exact remedy, exact force, drug force, which can boost the vital force, which can accelerate the vital force to the specific level or to the level at which it can push out the disease force out from the mortal body, out from the man. I think this lecture is this video will helpful for you to analyze aphorism number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16, including their footnotes. Try to read the organon of medicine by an unprejudiciable mind, then you can understand it.